Hi everyone, Hirsch Saha here, reporting from Auckland, New Zealand. Today is the 20th of January 2024, and this video is one I've actually wanted to do for quite a while after seeing a documentary. I think actually a number of years ago, after seeing a documentary. It's not even my idea, but I thought it was just such a good idea that the least I could do is broadcast it in some way, try to spread the word. It would be great if a video like this could actually result in something being done, especially on the scale that I would like it to be done. Chances are it probably won't, which is usually the case, quite sadly. But hey, it's still something that I think, at the very least, should be said and heard, even if only once. And yeah, so what I think all governments should do, and what I think all governments should do is simply implement something I've heard of called minimum standards. This, like I said, this idea is not mine. I got it from a documentary I saw on the former Soviet Union, or the communist state that consisted of Russia, Eastern Europe, and a lot of nations directly, to the south of Russia, like Kazakhstan and Ukraine and all that. So the Soviet Union, as you know, basically they began in 1922 and they fought through the wars and all that. Unfortunately, in 1924, basically 100 years ago, the premier of the Soviet Union, Vladimir Lenin, died, and his natural successor should have been Leon Trotsky, who really believed in communism and really wanted to, make things better for the entire Soviet Union, and it set an example for the world. And he even talked about creating a world revolution of socialism at the time, which is what he believed in. But unfortunately, what sometimes happens, very much like what Donald Trump did to Hillary Clinton in the 2016 presidential election. Joseph Stalin came and he made Trotsky look bad by giving him the wrong date to attend Lenin's funeral. So he didn't attend Lenin's funeral, not his fault though. He got the date wrong. Stalin did that on purpose. So then Stalin attended the funeral and he was there helping even carry the casket which held Vladimir Lenin in, and then he made himself look very good and made Lenin look bad, and he became the successor. And geez, unfortunately, he was there for way too long, from 1924 all the way to 1953, when he, thank God, finally, cucked it when he died. And I might add, in a puddle of his own urine, just lying there in his office. And he had been lying there for over 24 hours, and his those around him thought he was asleep. But yeah, he was there for way too long. And from 1924 to 1953, the Soviet Union was an absolutely horrible place to be. It was Stalin's endless purges and throwing people in the gulags being the concentration camps that he had in the Soviet Union at the time. I remember reading somewhere that historians believe that he killed up to 24 million of his own people, up to 24 million of his own people. So that's even more than say, for example, the 6 million Jews that Hitler killed in the concentration camps during World War II. Still not trying to belittle it in any way, shape, or form, but it's just, you hear something which is the absolute worst. You could think things can possibly get any worse than that, and then you hear of this, and it's hard to believe that, oh my God, things can get worse. But yeah, so after Stalin was gone in 1953, and again, that was his own fault. He was just so paranoid. So many people who worked for him, he would just eventually end up getting rid of or even killing because he was so paranoid of them. And he was always paranoid of doctors. And he got rid of a lot of doctors. And then when he got sick and needed a doctor, there was basically none to attend to him. Or I think by the time they did, it was too late. And he died in 1953. But after 1953, let's get to the point. The successor to Stalin was a premier called Nikita Khrushchev. And Nikita Khrushchev was definitely much, much, much better than Joseph Stalin. I would say it's just like comparing, um, I would say probably the successor, Joe Biden, of Donald Trump. I'd say, yeah, it's like comparing Joe Biden to Donald Trump. Joe Biden may not be perfect, but he's definitely say good 10,000 times better than Trump, literally. So Nikita Khrushchev was much better than Joseph Stalin, and things started to become better from then onwards. And as you know, they had the space race, which the Soviets were very successful in, especially at first and for a number of years. And things did start to get better, especially going into the late 50s and then into the 60s and into the 70s. I think it was the 80s when, of course, Nikita Khrushchev was no longer there then, but I think it was in the 80s when things started to deteriorate. And then, of course, the Soviet Union collapsed on Christmas Day, in fact, 1991. and Mikhail Gorbachev was the last premier of the Soviet Union, but that's when it officially collapsed. And of course, we had the fall of the Berlin Wall on 10th of November 1989. In my lifetime, I was only about 4 at the time. But what Nikita Khrushchev did, and what I think every government should do, is he implemented something called minimum standards. So obviously, he was saying that we're trying to create a much better society under socialism, where basically no one is poor, no one is living in poverty, and obviously, let's not have any maximum. And I agree with that. We should definitely not have any maximum as to how much a person can earn or be worth. But he was saying we definitely need to have a minimum. So he implemented what he called minimum standards. So basically, if there's anyone out there who doesn't have a job or who's very poor, can't afford to, eat, be housed, all that, basically those things would actually be provided. And I know what you're thinking. You're probably thinking, well, what about the unemployment benefit? Isn't that the point of the unemployment benefit, to help those who are really, facing hard times get back on their feet? But what Nikita Khrushchev did, I personally believe, is actually much, much smarter. The thing with the unemployment benefit and many other benefits like it, whether it's the medical benefit or, student benefit or anything, is that, people, it can easily be manipulated. People can easily take advantage of it. Someone could be move out of home and they don't have a lot of money, or perhaps they themselves personally don't have a lot of money in their names or coming to them in their names, but they might still have income from a trust or another entity which they have control of. Even though it's not them legally, they still have access to that. So things can get a bit dodgy there, and people can, and like I said, the benefits can be easily taken advantage of. People can claim as many benefits as possible. They can move out of home and have no home and have no job and claim the unemployment benefit. Having no home, they can then try to claim a housing benefit. Maybe just having one kid and they claim some sort of benefit around that. Maybe just starting to go to university and just doing one single paper or course and they claim a student benefit. And all these benefits add up, and then basically they're cheating the system. But what Nikita Khrushchev did back in the former Soviet Union in the 60s, when he implemented minimum standards, he was saying rather than give money, it is things that will be given. So basically, if you're poor, if you're in poverty, if you're homeless, you would go to basically, I guess, what we would call in the West a homeless shelter or a soup kitchen, and there would be one of those sort of centers in every major part of the city. And of course, it's all provided, it's all free. Certainly no vacation or anything like that. I mean, you'd be sleeping on a bed with bedding that is probably older than you are, and it'll be like 100 beds in a gym, and your meals will be very, very basic. But hey, it beats sleeping in a doorway out in the cold. It beats having no meal at all or trying to eat out of a rubbish bin, right? And the idea is that it helps when you're really down, when you're down on your luck and all that. But it encourages you to try to get out of that rut. So rather than giving people money where they can easily manipulate the system, you give them things, because you can't eat more than one meal at a time, right? You can't have more than one dinner. You can't sleep in more than one bed at a time. So you give things, and also then the government is able to, by ordering all those things in bulk, really bring down the price of those things to them and therefore to everyone else who pays tax. And I think that's a great idea. And like I said, that's what you live in. So you could be, say, an author trying to make it big, with your first royalties from your first book sales, or someone similar, maybe an artist or a poet, or someone in that sort of creative industry, or just whatever, maybe a teacher in training, but you just need some help in the beginning until you're on your feet, until you've got a job that pays you enough, and then of course you want to move out of where you're staying. So I just thought that was a really good idea. Minimum standards by giving things, not money. So basically, yeah, like a soup kitchen or a homeless shelter, people sleep in those. They do have all the basics, even if it is very old and not really so great. It'll be like clothes, all secondhand old clothes. It'll be like shopping at the Salvation Army. Like I said, the food would be very basic, probably just enough to keep you alive. But hey, again, you would survive and you would continue, and you could do that or live in that until, of course, you have a job or you're making money from your own business and you're able to get up back on your feet and get out of the rut, and you would basically be sorted and contributing to not only yourself but also to the economy. So I just thought it was a really good idea. Minimum standards. There should definitely be no maximum, but there should certainly be a minimum, and it should be based on things rather than just money, which can be easily taken advantage of. I just thought that was an awesome idea, and I'll certainly recommend it for not just communist governments, but any government, anywhere, anytime, especially now. Yeah, thank you.